Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
It's our News Digest unit for today. And what we're going to be talking about is pretty much old news to all of you, but we're going to be talking about it today because this is very important. We're talking about the presidential election that took place earlier this year. And, of course, the political atmosphere in Taiwan is going to change as a result.
Yeah, it sure is. We're going to talk about how it was a landslide victory, which means the votes weren't even close. So usually you vote for one person or another. And in this particular election, Tsai Ing-wen, she got most of the votes. So it was
it wasn't even a contest. We all knew who was going to win months before.
We'll often say that. It wasn't even a contest. If you're watching a sports game or it's an election and one person or one team or one side does so much better, yeah, wasn't even a contest. So it was a landslide victory. We are going to talk about that in our news unit today. Let's go ahead, guys. We'll read through the article and then we'll talk about some of these terms we use, especially when we talk about politics and elections. Stay tuned.
In a historic defeat of its rival party, the Democratic Progressive Party DPP won a landslide victory in the 2016 Taiwan presidential election early this year. The monumental election not only saw the island appoint Tsai Ing-wen its first female leader, but also granted the DPP a majority in Taiwan's parliament, 68 seats out of 113. Although Tsai's victory wasn't shocking, voters were likely influenced to some degree by two incidents that happened not long before Election Day. The first was the historic meeting between current Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou and Chinese leader Xi Jinping last November, which sparked widespread controversy. The second incident occurred just days before the election, when 16-year-old Taiwanese pop singer Zhou Ziyu was forced to apologize to China for waving a Taiwanese flag on South Korean television. Now that Tsai has been elected, she has a lot of work ahead of her. The president-elect mainly campaigned on domestic issues, and she will be facing a shrinking economy, falling wages, and rising housing prices. Tsai will have to figure out ways to combat all of these. Tsai and the rest of the DPP have already promised a number of measures meant to boost the economy and encourage growth. These include more investment in technology and manufacturing, convincing Taiwanese businesses that have moved to China to come home, and expanding Taiwan's global trade ties. This is only the second time in the past 30 years that a DPP leader has been in power, and many people are excited for the change. It remains to be seen whether President Tsai will be able to deliver on her promises.
Okay, guys, let's take a look at the title. We've got a vocabulary word there in the title. DPP's Tsai wins a landslide victory. Before we talk about how we use landslide here, which is more figurative and not literal, let's talk about what a real landslide is. We've seen landslides in Taiwan, especially when we have a very strong typhoon. When it comes, it rains and rains and rains. And sometimes some of the dirt and rocks on mountains slide off. That's a landslide. When you've got all of this earth and dirt and rocks coming down from a mountain or a cliff. You got to be careful during those landslides because people can be covered. Houses and villages can be covered up with dirt and people can die. That's a real landslide. Here we're saying landslide is being used to talk about just an overwhelming majority of votes for one party in an election. So they get most of the votes, so it's not even close. Or as we like to say, it wasn't even a contest.
Exactly. And this was a landslide victory, not like previous elections in the past, say when Lian Zhan ran against Chen Shui-bian. That was very close. You can't say it was a landslide victory. But this one was a landslide victory. She beat her opponent soundly soundly, and he was so embarrassed.
There were two of them, actually. She beat two of them.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Sung and Ju. That's right. I forgot about those two people. But in any case here, in a historic defeat of its rival party, the Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP for short, won a landslide victory in the 2016 Taiwan presidential election, which took place early this year. Okay, so of course, if you talk about someone you're competing against, that is your rival. Okay, so in this particular case, there are two parties in Taiwan that have most of the power, the DPP and the KMT. They are rivals. They're always at each other's throats. They're always arguing. They never agree. And in the U.S., it's the same. The Democrats and the Republicans are rival parties.
They are. Another rivalry, that's the noun form of this rivalry that we see in sports, is the Yankees and the Red Sox, which, if you listen, you know I'm a Yankees fan. Well, the rival party really was defeated by the DPP in this landslide victory that we just had in the presidential election this year. Now, the monumental election not only saw the island appoint Tsai Ing-wen's first female leader, but also granted the DPP a majority in Taiwan's parliament. It's a big deal. So they have the presidency and they also have a majority in parliament. So they've got all the power right now. They can pass the laws that they want to. Monumental is an adjective. It just means really big, really great. It can be important, so great in importance, or the size or the extent of something. A monument is often a statue that's carved or created to pay tribute to someone. Monumental, though, just means really big. Great.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some examples of a monument in Taiwan here. There's like memorial halls and things like
Sun
that.
Yat-sen, there's a big statue there, right?
Oh, is there? Okay, so that's like a monument?
A memorial hall. Yeah, a monument to him.
There's like the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., or there's the Monument to Independence in Mexico City. But in this case, we're talking about something being really significant. It's a monumental election, and it saw the island appoint its first female leader. So here, somebody is appointed when somebody gives someone a job or when they simply get that job. Of course, when she becomes president, she will appoint various ministers in the government. They will be appointed.
That will be one of her duties, is to get her ministry all set up. But this election also granted the DPP a majority in Taiwan's parliament. Now, in America, we have a Congress. But in Taiwan, you call your legislative yuan the parliament. And if you have a majority, you have more people in one particular party than the other. So they've got 68 seats out of 113. That's pretty good. If you grant someone something, it just means you give them that thing. And usually when you grant something, the person doing the granting has some sort of power or authority.
That's right. So they now have the majority of the seats in Parliament, which, again, as you said, is the local version of a Congress. They have a Parliament in England and in Canada as well.
They do, yeah.
Now let's move on to the next paragraph here. It says, although Tsai's victory wasn't shocking, voters were likely influenced to some degree by two incidents that happened not long before Election Day. Now, we did have a couple of things happen before Election Day, even though I think they really didn't affect the election that much. It was already pretty much decided maybe a year or even 2 years ago. But in any case, it wasn't shocking. Everybody knew who was going to win, but it was still influenced a little bit. To some degree means by a certain amount, maybe 5 or 10% of the votes were cast based on some incidents that happened not long before Election Day. An incident, of course, is something that happens. We use this to refer to maybe violent events, like the Meilidao incident down in Kaohsiung a long time ago, or they also refer to the 228 incident here in Taiwan as well. But these two incidents weren't so bad as those.
Yeah. We're actually using to some degree this as a phrase. So instead of just focusing in on degree, it's that whole phrase there, to some degree, or to some extent. to some amount, to some level. So degree just means the amount, level, or extent at which something happens or that you see is present. But here, to some degree, a little bit. We could say that a little bit. These two incidents that happened not too long before election influenced those voters. Maybe it made them mad, or maybe it made them really want to go out and to vote. Maybe somebody had decided, I'm not going to vote. She's going to win. But maybe something made them mad before the election and they decided, I don't care. I'm going to go vote. So sometimes these things can really affect an election. Here it affected a little bit. What was one of these events? Well, the first was the historic meeting between current Taiwanese President Ma Ying-jeou and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping last November. So they finally met for the first time, and that sparked or started, that's what sparked means. To spark something means to start something. It sparked widespread controversy. When you have controversy, it means a lot of people have differing opinions or have different opinions. And, not everybody agrees. And this, of course, was a big controversy because, a lot of people are not very pro-China right now.
Yeah, so I still don't know exactly how this affected the election here. Did they hate China as a result of this meeting, or did they love Taiwan as a result of this meeting, and how did it affect their votes? I don't dare say, because it is a controversy, which is something in which a lot of people disagree about something. It's controversial, you could say. So I don't dare express any opinions on this, or I might find myself beaten by an angry mob with baseball bats if I don't say the right thing. So I'm going to watch out there. This is very controversial. So that's one incident, the meeting between Ma and Xi Jinping. And we'll talk about the second incident in just a couple of seconds, but right now we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是 Alice， 欢迎收听 English Digest。今天我们要来介绍 Unit6 News Digest 的新闻。DPP's Tsai wins a landslide victory. 总统大选蔡英文获压倒性胜利。本课叙述了今年1月的选举结果，以及未来新政府即将面临的挑战。首先我们看到第一段第二句 The monumental election not only saw the island appoint 蔡英文 its first female leader, but also granted the DPP a majority in Taiwan's parliament, 68 seats out of 113. 这项重要的选举不仅仅见证了台湾人民任命蔡英文为第一位女性领导者，也授予民进党为台湾国会的多数，113席中占了68席。这边我们来看个动词 grant, G-R-A-N-T, 有授予、准予的意思。常见的用法有 grant somebody something 或是 grant something to somebody。例如The judge granted the man his freedom as he had been wrongly accused. 法官授予让那名男子自由，因为他是被诬告的。而 grant 后面加 that 名词子句，则是承认。例如 I grant that you may have a point here, but the real situation is not so simple. 我承认你说的或许有道理，但实际情形并非那么简单。另一个常见片语 take somebody or something for granted 则是指把某人或某事视为理所当然。例如 My girlfriend fails to see how good I am to her. She always takes me for granted. 我女朋友不知道我对她有多好，她总把我视为理所当然。接着我们看到第二段，本段叙述大选前发生的两个事件。我们看到这一段的最后一句 The second incident occurred just days before the election when 16-year-old Taiwanese pop singer 周子瑜 was forced to apologize to China for waving a Taiwanese flag on South Korean television. 第二起事件刚好发生在选举前几天，一名16岁的台湾流行歌手周子瑜，由于在南韩电视节目中挥舞台湾旗帜，而被迫对中国道歉。这边我们看到动词 apologize A+apologize， 意思是道歉。常见的用法是 apologize to somebody for， 再加名词或动名词，为了某事向某人道歉的意思。例如Nico apologized to me for not showing up at my birthday party. 尼可因未能参加我的生日派对而向我道歉。它的名词是 apology, apology， 常与介系词 for 搭配，形成 an apology for 再加名词或动名词，也就是对某事感到抱歉的意思。例如I'd like to offer an apology for being late. 很抱歉我迟到了。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our program, everybody. We're talking about the historic landslide victory in the presidential election, which took place early this year. No surprise, everybody pretty much knew that Tsai Ing-wen was going to win, but we're talking about a couple of incidents that happened before the election that may have influenced the election to some degree. The first one we just mentioned, it was the meeting between Ma Ying-jeou and Xi Jinping, and that sparked some controversy. Now let's talk about the second incident. It involved some cute young Taiwanese pop singer who works in Korea. She did something naughty on a TV program there, and it caused a big controversy and may have affected the election here.
It doesn't seem like a very big deal to me. If you love your country, you know, you want to be proud of it. So sometimes you'll wave your flag, your country's flag, and I thought, wow, what's the big deal about this? But because relations between Taiwan and China are a little bit uncertain, you could say, sometimes you have to be careful, I guess. It's kind of sad because I understand her wanting to wave the Taiwanese flag on TV because she's proud of Taiwan. So am I. I think it's a great country here. Now, if you're forced to apologize, it means you have to say you're sorry for something that you said or something that you did. Here, of course, she was being forced to apologize to China because she waved her country's flag on South Korean television. Oh, no.
Exactly. And, of course, she waved the wrong flag. I think there's a flag that you can wave that's okay, like the Chinese Taipei flag. That's probably okay.
Really?
I think so, but she actually waved the red, white, and blue Taiwanese flag.
Well, that is the Taiwan flag. I say wave that one as much as possible.
But that flag itself, I believe, is kind of controversial.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not going to make any comments
Don't get
on
involved.
That. Yeah, I don't want to get my head bashed in. But in any case, China was still angry about this. You can't wave that flag like that. That's wrong. You're naughty. You better say you're sorry. So she had to apologize. And that just means you say you're sorry very, very deeply, okay? Saying you're sorry is one thing, but apologizing is more formal. She probably had to get down on her knees, and she probably had to lick Xi Jinping's feet for several hours and stuff like that and give him all sorts of money. And, no, I didn't do that, but she probably had to make some appearance on TV.
Now that Tsai has been elected, though, she has a lot of work ahead of her, which is true. Now that something has happened, the following is the case or is true. So she's got a lot of work ahead of her that she needs to get busy on. Now, we're calling someone who gets elected but hasn't quite taken office yet because Ma Ying-jeou is still president, as you know.
Just for a couple of days,
we call these people who haven't quite been sworn in. Usually they have to swear to do their best for the country. We call them president-elect. So the elect just means she's been elected, but she's not currently serving as the president. She's waiting for the former president or the current president to leave office. She campaigned on things we're calling domestic issues. Domestic issues means things that involve your country. The opposite of domestic would be international. So she's more concerned about Taiwan's economy, how Taiwan's doing.
Yeah, not too concerned about cross-strait trade or things like that. She was talking about things that people in Taiwan are more concerned about, like the shrinking economy. If something's shrinking, it's getting smaller. If you dry clothes in the dryer for the first time, they might shrink, especially if the dryer is too hot. Cotton, indeed. So this is the shrinking economy. People don't get paid as much as they used to. We have to work longer hours to make less money. We've also got falling wages, which means we're not getting paid as much as we used to, or our wages aren't increasing.
They're not increasing.
Yeah, our wages for the kind of work we do haven't gone up in several years, but inflation continues to go up.
Yeah.
And we've also got rising housing prices. Of course, you know it's pretty expensive to buy a house in Taipei.
It is.
And those prices are going up all over the place, although I understand it's still kind of affordable to buy houses like in the center and south. But still, housing prices are going up and up and up and up and up. And Tsai Ing-wen wants to do something about that.
Yeah, it says here she wants to figure out a way or figure out ways to combat all of these issues or all of these problems. If you combat something, it just means you fight something. This is the verb form to combat. The noun is combat, which means you're in war, right? You're fighting in combat. Tsai and the rest of the DPP have already promised a number of measures or methods, you could say, meant to boost the economy and encourage growth. We often use this word measure when we're talking about legislation that they're going to use to try to change something within the country. A measure. Let's vote on this measure. Let's vote on this bill. We also call it a bill if it's a piece of legislation. If you boost something, guys, you lift it up. You increase it. When I was growing up, I had little brothers and sisters who were too small to sit at a table at a restaurant. So the waitress would bring them a booster seat, which helped them sit higher up so they could reach the table. So boost just means to be higher, to increase something.
That's right. So these are measures that should boost the economy and encourage growth. And what are these measures? Well, they include more investments in technology and manufacturing. Of course, Taiwan is great in technology, but a lot of that technology is going up to China. Manufacturing is going there. So she wants to convince Taiwanese businesses to come back home. Get out of China there and come back to Taiwan. It's better here. The food's better. The weather's better. Everything's better here. People are more friendly and stuff like that.
True.
They don't have a yelio in mainland China. How could you stay up there without Tailuga or Kendin? Yeah, get back here. Come back home. And she also wants to expand Taiwan's global trade ties to have more international trade with more countries.
Well, yeah, with more countries. I know that since the start of the year, our trade has gone down, so we want to bring that up again. This is only the second time in the past 30 years that a DPP leader has been in power. Of course, we had Chen Shui-bian when I got here. So it's kind of rare for the DPP to have this kind of power, especially now that they have the parliament. They control the parliament, and they also have a president in office. This is going to be a big deal. So if they don't do well or if they don't succeed, we might see them lose the next election by a landslide. Who knows?
You never know. Yeah, it's the first time they've been totally in power, so I guess they can't blame the KMT anymore.
No.
So it's all up to them now. If they screw up or something, then it's going to be hard for them to find a scapegoat.
Yeah, they can't blame anybody else. That's right.
Indeed. Well, yeah, that's how politics always are. They're always blaming the other ones, no matter who's in power. But
doesn't matter.
In any case, it remains to be seen whether President Tsai will be able to deliver on her promises. Here we have the word deliver. That just means to do what you say you're going to do. To deliver on her promises. She has made these promises, and now she needs to keep those promises, or she may not be re-elected in 4 years.
Well, we wish her and this new government a lot of luck. We would love to see wages increase in Taiwan.
We would.
Yeah. Right now, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
接下来第三段说明了未来新政府必须面对的困难，其中本段的最后一句 These include more investment in technology and manufacturing, convincing Taiwanese business that have moved to China to come home, and expanding Taiwan's global trade ties. 这些措施包含增加更多对科技及制造业的投资，说服移至中国的台湾企业回台，以及扩展台湾的全球贸易关系。我们看到这个句子中动名词的用法，动名词具有名词的性质，表示动词所指的行为。课文中的 convincing 及 expanding 在本课中是当作动词 include 的受词。再举个类似的例子 Jennifer enjoys watching horror films 珍妮佛喜欢看恐怖电影。另外动名词也可以当主词，例如 Eating a balanced diet is good for your health 摄取均衡的饮食对你健康有益。动名词还可以当补语，例如 My favorite recreation is playing badminton 我最喜欢的休闲娱乐是打羽球。除此之外，动名词也可以当形容词来用，例如 The drinking water in this area is polluted 这个地区的饮用水被污染了。最后我们看到课文最后一句 It remains to be seen whether President Tsai will be able to deliver on her promises 蔡总统是否能够履行他的诺言，这仍有待观察。这里有个常见片语 deliver on somebody's promise 就是指履行某人的诺言。 deliver on 是实现、履行的意思。与 promise 相关的片语还有 give or make a promise 表示做出承诺， keep a promise 就是遵守诺言。相反的，如果要表达打破承诺，我们可以说 break a promise。例如 Charlie assured me that he would pay back the money he owed me, but he broke his promise in the end. 查理保证会还清欠我的钱，但他最后打破了承诺。以上就是今天的课程，谢谢收听。
Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again for another edition of our program next time. And in a couple of days, we're going to see a new president inaugurated. Let's wish her the best of luck. From all of us here at English Digest, my name is Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.